get to the jokes, I just want to start by sharing a little bit about myself. My dad is Irish, and my mom is Jim Carrey. And good night. I get that all the time, everywhere I go. Last month I was in Paris, France, doing some comedy gigs there, and I swung by the Musée d'Orsay. Any French people in, by the way? Yeah. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes. Close enough, right? Yeah. For an American. So anyway, I'm at this museum. There's about 15 Chinese tourists in line behind me. And one by one, they start taking photos with me. I felt like a celebrity. At first I thought it was because they're fans of my comedy. But then I thought about it a little bit more practically. I figured they must think I look like Jim Carrey. So I said, Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura. I got a bunch of blank stares. And then one said, no. And he takes out his phone, he types something in, he shows it to me. It's a picture of the dad from Modern Family. If you have no idea what we're talking about, Google Phil Dunphy Modern Family after the show for a bonus laugh on me. This is my whole act, by the way. I just named celebrities that I resemble. Who did I miss? Yell it out. I got them all? I asked that question at a show in Philadelphia last week, and someone yells out, Christian Bale. I'm like, ooh, but you're more handsome. It was my mom that yelled it out. She came to support me. So I'm from suburban Philadelphia. I live in Dublin, Ireland now. I went to college with Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer. He and I were the big men on campus. It weren't obvious already, me and Phelpsy. Let's just say that between the two of us, we slept with 24 women. What's so funny? Also between the two of us, we won 26 Olympic gold medals. In case if you're wondering how those numbers break down. Do you all think that your phone is listening to you and then feeding you relevant social media ads? How many people do? Show of hands. All right, most of the room. And I ask this question at a lot of shows, and they typically say it's typically most of the room. Facebook, Apple, they deny it, but sometimes it's just uncanny. There's no other explanation. Last week, I'm talking to a friend on the phone, and I said, I can't wait to go to Taco Bell. Taco Bell, remember that.
Taco Bell.
5 minutes later, I turned on Instagram. What do I have an ad for? Diarrhea pills. How did it know? But smartphones, social media, they're ruining a lot of things. One is catching up with old friends. I was just home in Philadelphia for the holidays. I saw a friend from high school I hadn't seen in nearly 20 years. I was like, Ryan, how are you? I live in Ireland now. And he's like, oh, I know. It's kind of like, we don't have to have this conversation. He goes on to say, I know from your Facebook that you live in Dublin. I know from your Instagram that you perform comedy. And I know from your TikTok that you're not fucking funny. All valid points. But one kind of weird thing I learned from just being on social media in Europe, now that I live here, is that different languages express laughter differently when they're typing it. So for instance, native English speakers, we say ha ha ha, H-A-H-A. Now this might be a stretch, but is anybody here a Spanish speaker? No, I mean fluent. Oh, that's impressive. So how do you express laughter in Spanish when you're writing? J-A-J-A, yeah, ja, ja, ja. Is anybody here a Brazilian Portuguese speaker?
Yeah.
So what do you say?
Ka, 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 ka.
Ka, 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 K-K-K. And pro tip, if you're ever in America, don't say K-K-K. That will drastically change the tone of the conversation. But my favorite, where are the German speakers? There's the one German speaker in the middle. So as you know, to express laughter in German, you type out, that is not very funny. And the German actually laughed at that.
That was not funny.
Another kind of weird thing I learned along the same lines from just being on social media in Europe is that when English-speaking films are released in international markets, oftentimes the titles are lost in translation. Here's a couple of my favorites. Grease with John Travolta from the 1970s. In Argentina, it translates to Vaseline. I see where they're going with that, but they slightly missed the mark. Has anybody here not seen The Sixth Sense? Everyone. Wow, okay. You haven't seen it? It is known for a twist ending, which I'm about to reveal. Is that okay? You can put on earmuffs if you don't want to hear it. So we all know there's a twist ending in The Sixth Sense. In China, The Sixth Sense translates to, he's a ghost. Spoiler alert. And my favorite, Forrest Gump. We all know Forrest Gump. In Russia, the translation is dumb American. Which incidentally was my nickname when I moved to Europe. But I'll end on a quick story. So my claim to fame is that I'm an extra in the opening scene of the film Contagion. You all don't look very impressed. Nobody ever is. Show of hands, how many people have seen the film Contagion? All right, you all, my parents have seen it. So if you haven't seen the film, it's a film about a pandemic that takes the world by storm. And in 2011, when it was released, they classified it as a sci-fi thriller. Come 2020, they reclassified it as a documentary. So I shot at Midway Airport, near where I was living at the time, outside Chicago. And I was originally just kind of walking in the background, but then an assistant director grabbed me and said, we actually need you up front. And he brings me into the bar where the actual filming is taking place. And there's all the lights and the cameras and the crew people. 6 feet in front of me is Steven Soderbergh. He directed Ocean's 11. 6 feet to my left is Gwyneth Paltrow. She founded Goop.com, where I buy my vagina-scented candles. So anyway, it's literally the first scene of the film if you've seen it. She's on a phone, I'm just kind of in the background looking pretty. And we shoot 10 or 12 takes over about 90 minutes. And I hadn't said anything to Gwyneth Paltrow. We hadn't even made eye contact. I was very nervous. We're wrapping up shooting for the day, and I said to myself, I have to say something to her. And I just watched the film Seven. How many people have seen Seven? Okay, I'm going to also ruin this film ending. The final scene of the film, Gwyneth Paltrow's decapitated head is in a cardboard box in the desert. I'm not even trying to be funny or cute, but I just blurted out to her, hey Gwyneth, glad to see that your head is still connected to your shoulders. Kind of a weird thing to say, right? I didn't realize how awkward it was until it came out of my mouth. So that gets her attention. She slowly turns her head to the right. She stares into my soul. She looks angry and then a little bit confused. And she yells out, why is Jim Carrey here?